members. We are anticipating our fifth member, Kathy Vitale, will perhaps arrive a little bit later. She has been having to deal with her business at this time, so she can't be with us at this moment. To my left is Mr. Carter Falk. He is a Deputy Planning Manager in City Hall. And so I'd first like to tick through the rules of what we have before us tonight. First of all, by New Hampshire law, this meeting is recorded on written transcripts. It's also recorded two other ways. It's recorded on TV, so there's cameras here tonight, and you can watch that on local access TV when it's presented. And also in a few weeks, you'll be able to listen to the audio of this meeting, and you can stream that at gonashua.com. You can kind of click through and find the Nashua Zoning Board, so if you'd like to listen to it in that venue, you can. So I'd like to thank Scott, first of all, who's the man behind the door, who's filming this. And Scott does a good job of covering all the action, but what he can't do is get anybody's voice who doesn't speak into the microphone. So I ask that we have one person speaking at a time, and that person speaks into a microphone. I might ask for you, or I ask for your name and address, and the reason is the written transcript needs to reflect that. Mr. Falk usually transcribes this. He knows our voices, so we don't announce our names each time before we speak. Going over a couple of other rules. If you have a cell phone, I ask that you silence it or put it on mute. While you're in this room, we ask for silence. If your case isn't being heard and you'd like to speak, you could please feel free to step out in the hall and have a conversation. This meeting takes place in two parts for each case. The first part is the public hearing. The public hearing is where we hear from you, the applicants, abutters, or other parties of interest. The way our rules specify is that the applicant will speak first. They have up to 15 minutes to speak, to present their case. This clock will tick down from 15 minutes. It'll be green for the first 14, yellow for minute 14 to 15, and then turn red. I'm likely to ask you to stop if you're still speaking after 15 minutes. The board's likely to ask people who are speaking any clarifying questions. After the applicant has spoken for up to 15 minutes, anybody else who wants to speak in favor or in support of the application has up to 5 minutes to speak. After all supportive testimony is heard, the board then hears from anybody with questions or concerns. Those folks have up to 5 minutes to speak, to present whatever is on their mind in terms of questions or concerns. And if there are questions or concerns, then the applicant has 5 minutes back at the microphone to address the concerns that we've heard. And if, again, there's concerns heard or not in support of the application, after the applicant addresses that, whoever has spoken in opposition will have the final 5 minutes at the microphone. It's important to note that if there's more than one person speaking in opposition, one and only one by our laws has the right to come back to have the final 5 minutes. After we've heard testimony in support and perhaps not in support of applications, that will terminate or end the public hearing portion of the case, and then the public meeting portion will begin, which is where we as a board will deliberate on the case and likely come to a resolution tonight. Tonight we're hearing just variances, no special exceptions, and I'll briefly tick through the 5 criteria that we're looking for in a variance. And number 1 is that the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. Number 2 is that the spirit of the ordinance is observed. Number 3, substantial justice is done. Number 4, the values of surrounding properties are not diminished. And number 5, literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship. So by New Hampshire law, that's what this board, a vote of 3 members or more, would need to find in each application to vote affirmatively in favor of that application for a variance. And just one other point, variances are variances to this large stick book of zoning. So the folks here tonight are seeking to do something which isn't specifically approved in this book as interpreted by Mr. Falk. And so that's why we're here tonight. Now, I would say that each of us has received a written copy of the application about a week and a half ago. A lot of times we go to visit the sites, but not always. And so that is a background that we have. The four of us, or five if Kathy arrives, we volunteer to serve on city government. How do we get here? We express an interest to the mayor. We're appointed by the mayor, confirmed by the Board of Aldermen, and we typically go through training once a year that's offered by the state on the latest updates of land use zoning law. So a couple of other points. If we render a decision that you feel is unjust, you have the right to appeal that, and that right begins within 30 days of tonight by asking for a rehearing request, and we do have a rehearing request before us tonight. That would have to get in by 30 days, so if you were interested in doing a rehearing request, you could call Mr. Falk tomorrow to get more details on that. And if we don't hear the rehearing request, if we were to decide to deny that, you could then take the decision to Superior Court. That would be the next step. So I've briefly gone through the rules here. Are there any questions by anyone in the audience? Actually, if you want a copy of tonight's agenda, it's right over on that table by the fire extinguisher. Feel free to get one. I will say that the first case, 699 West Hollis Street, has been postponed to March 28th. Is there anyone here for 699 West Hollis Street, elderly housing? Okay, so there's no impact there. So, I'm sorry, are there any questions in the audience tonight before we get going? I think we're ready to go.
Do you want to say something about cell phones?
Oh, I think I did, but if you have a cell phone,
Sorry.
no problem. If you have a cell phone, please silence it. I'm going to double check mine because I didn't want to be embarrassed, and it's silenced, so thank you, Mr. Shaw. All right, well, I'd like to open the public hearing on case tonight on the agenda. It's case number 2, being that case number 1 was tabled. Case number 2, the owner is Alan C. Mello Revocable Trust. The address is 13 Marmon Drive. The request is a variance to exceed maximum number of wall signs. 3 are permitted, 5 are proposed. This is in the Highway Business Zone in Ward 7. So good evening, Mr. Prunier. If you'd like to walk us through your application.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. For the record, my name is Gerald Prunier. I'm an attorney with offices at 20 Trafalgar Square in Nashua, and here representing the applicant, Alan Mello. As usual, since there are only 4 members, I'm noting my objection to proceeding with only 4 members, not a full board, and so I will proceed now. Thank you. I believe that you've received a copy, and attached to the copy is a copy of the outline of what we're trying to do, and
I think what you're describing is especially the front of the building outline. Is
Yeah.
that what you were just pointing to? With
I'm
the
going
different...
to give you another copy, if I may,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Thanks. Come on up and...
The Alan Mello dealership, car dealership, is located at the corner of Graham Drive and Marmon Drive at the bottom of the hill. I think you're all familiar with it at this point in time. Like the other dealers along Marmon Drive, the request from the franchisor, the parent company, to renovate their frontage and renovate the whole building to comply more with the national standards of Chrysler Fiat and the franchisor. So that's what Alan Mello has done. Having done that, they also, and as you well know, because I've been here before, you on all of the other dealerships down there, the franchisor sets out a request for the type of signage that they want before and their frontage. In this particular case, they have requested that Mr. Mello install really four signs. The other sign is the Alan Mello sign. The four signs state the Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, the four products that the Alan Mello dealership sells. We're allowed to have three. We are requesting five because of the fact that we have four products besides the Alan Mello dealership sign to locate the presence. The Nashua ordinance, as far as dealerships, car dealerships, doesn't specifically cover that. It covers all types of businesses. It doesn't cover the specific differences, and this is why I have been before you for the other dealerships on Marmon to try to get the signs to conform to what the franchisors have required, and you've been very good in helping the franchisees meet those requirements. You can see that it's just a single name outside of Alan Mello. It's just a single name of the product. It's not out of character with the area because the whole area down at that Marmon Drive is an automotive dealership and has multiple multi-signs for the automobiles that the various dealerships sell. It's not outside the spirit of the ordinance. The ordinance allows signage of that type. In this particular instance, because the number of the products, it's not, we don't have the five signs, we only would be allowed the three, but we're not here also requesting more signage. We're only requesting the names of the products that are being sold in that particular situation. My client is here with me this evening. We'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have. You can see that the frontage, the new frontage of the building indicates the five blocks, if you want, rectangles for the particular signs that have been set up by the franchise dealership. Oh, there goes my section. If you have any questions, I'd be...
Mr. Shaw?
I guess I just wanted to clarify on the square footage. So the application states that it won't have more square footage. So I guess what was the existing square footage and what will be the proposed new square footage? If that was your intent, or the other way that you can approach the question is, you're allowed a certain amount of square footage, and what would be the total that these signs comprise?
Since I wasn't requesting more square footage, I didn't look up exactly what the square footage was, but I think Carter knows. But the if you look at the other picture that I included in my package as well, you can see that we tried to put in the windows the dealership, the Ram, Chrysler, different pictures to try to get our sign, the number of the dealers there, so the public would know what we sell, which is really what the sign ordinance is for, is to give the public the knowledge of what the dealer or the business is selling.
Can Mr. Falk comment?
Yeah, I think it's a great question about the square footage is what Mr. Shaw was asking.
As Attorney Prunier stated, the square footage that they're proposing with the five signs meets the ordinance. It meets the area, per their linear frontage. And actually, the way our staff looked at it, since the building was completely redone in the front, and they took down all the signs, we kind of made them start all over. They had more square footage before, actually. They had larger sizes out there. So this request is smaller in size and meets the code.
Square footage.
Square footage is high.
Okay. I guess just maybe for future reference, or I find it helpful to know some sense of if you're allowed 250 or 300, and you're coming in at 200 or 250, it's helpful when we talk about exceptions. So just as a general comment, I mean, I know we don't have to deal with the exact number because it's meeting the area requirement. I find it's helpful to put in context.
It was something like, the maximum allowed in this zone is 150 square feet, but since the building is not more than 100 feet wide. I think they're allowed about 135 square feet, and this is even less than that. Alan, you may have more details, but I know they met the numbers. So. I thought I had it here. I don't have it.
I guess what we know is, anyway, it's less than the requirement. We don't know what it is.
I looked at it, Marshall looked at it, you know, our staff did. I thought I had the numbers, but apparently they're not here.
Our records show that we're allowed 150 square feet,
Oh,
and
that's not
total signage is less than 150 square feet.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions? I have a question on the application on this page here. It looks to me like there are 6 signs. It's pretty small here. It's like Chrysler, Allen Mello, Dodge, Jeep, something else, and then service. And so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm counting 6 wall signs on that picture, and I was just wondering. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that one.
What's this?
Are you talking
That's
about the
doorway.
service sign?
Yeah, the service sign.
The service sign is back off the frontage
Yeah.
to the side where the service comes in, and the staff
Okay.
said it was a directional sign more than anything else. So-
All right.
So that's why they came.
Yeah, it looks like it's right in the front, but it's really, maybe way over 100 feet back of the front wall. It's set way, way back. This picture looks like it's right in front, but it really isn't. And, you know, we just look at that as more of a directional sign, you know, so people know where to drive for service or parts or things like that, so.
Mr. Shaw?
I guess the other thing, what will be how will the signs be lit?
How will they be lit? They will be lit from the front of the building. They're not individually lit. But maybe, Mello, you want to tell them the type signs you're gonna, the lighting that you were gonna have for lighting?
Alan Mello, 13 Marmon Drive. We are proposing to internally light these signs. And then also to clarify before, my understanding is that the code allows for 3 signs. We're asking for 5, but we are below the square footage.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Curry or Mr. Mello? I think we're all set for now.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak in favor of the sign application at 15 Marmon Drive? Is there anyone with questions or concerns about the sign application? We do have a letter on file. Let me open it up here. So we have a letter from Matthew Theberge. Is that fellow here tonight? No, have you seen this letter? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I have been provided a copy with it.
Okay,
And-
so let me just say, I think we all received this letter in the package, so I don't think I need to read this into the record. It's already into the record, and you've got a letter, so.
As far as we're concerned, you don't have to read it. I'm aware of it. I think the letter speaks for itself. It looks like it's more concerning some landscaping along the borders of the place. I will also, he looks as if our security cameras are looking at his property. No, they are not. They look down and cover our own property, that's all. We have nothing on his property.
Okay. All right, we have a question, actually, Mr.
Yes, he
Peroni.
can.
No, I guess it's more, at least a comment, and if you want to say anything further to it. So my sense was, the other thing was just besides those landscaping type concerns, the other thing I think was getting at perhaps trying to make sure that the additional signage would not be on the side of the building that might be facing Hobart. And in this case, it's pretty clear that except for a very kind of oblique angle, maybe in the very kind of back corner of that property, that these signs will not be actually affecting the view from the Hobart residences.
That's correct. They're not looking that way. They're looking more at Graham Drive, coming straight down Graham
Right,
Drive.
right. So I think, you know, just having that confirmation that these signs are on the front facade, which is really not going to affect the residents at 14 Hobart, I think is also just important to note in terms of at least the understanding we have.
Yeah. Okay, so this letter was the only opposition we've had. We've spoken to about it. So I think it's fair to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Thoughts on the case? Anybody want to jump in first? Mary Ellen, go for it.
First things first, in the interest of openness and transparency, and I shared with the chair, we have bought our vehicles at Allen Mello since 1999. I pretty much know a lot of the people there, and so I want you to know that. I mean, I love my Jeep. I loved my Durangos. As far as this is concerned, I love the look. I really like it. That's probably a question I should have asked. I didn't know if it was gonna cut into on the side when you come in. They had a parking area right there that was by the service area and by where, Dominic's office always used to be. So, I don't know if that's still gonna be there, but I do love the look of this. I don't have an objection at all.
All right. Ms. Vitale?
I should also mention that my significant other is in sales for Allen Mello, so I don't know if that makes a difference to anybody. I don't think it should, but in this case.
All right.
But I do know that the manufacturers do require certain things. It's not overall, excessive on the square footage requirement. It's all facing where it should be facing.
Mr. Shaw?
Yeah, I think the fact that we're not talking about additional square footage beyond what's allowed, that the frontage, I mean, it is on the frontage of the front facade. I think it's a very reasonable request. Also, the context of Marmon Drive, pretty much almost every other structure on Marmon Drive is a car dealership of one sort or another, other than, I think, whatever it is in terms of the utility building on the corner there. So I think generally, yeah, I'm fine with this. I just, like I said, I wanted to explore earlier to make sure a couple of those specifics about the square footage and about the lighting, but I think, again, I'm not concerned about the effect on the abutter that did raise the concerns, and their issues are really mostly not to do with the signage, so.
I support the application for all the reasons that were spoken about, so I didn't need to go over those again.
And for me, I find support for the application. I'd just like to second what Mr. Shaw was saying. When, I read the application and, the abutters letter, I did, go up Hobart Drive and look, and I agree with what you say, that maybe from one oblique angle on the one corner of the property, you might start to see some minor bit of light, but I think it's pretty trivial, or more likely none at all, that you'd see from that property. And also, to reiterate what you said, I mean, Marmon Drive is like the automotive dealership. I don't see it creating any problems for, light pollution, or, it's just kind of in keeping in kind with that rather unique automotive street. So I find support for it also. Like to make a motion, or?
I was just I can, but the other comment is, I think also, if I'm not mistaken, I think basically the facade has moved out as well. So I think between the former angles, I think if anything, there might have been more visual kind of effect on at least, especially again, number 14 Hobart, whereas I think the movement of the facade and the straightening up of it to basically be more parallel with Marmon, I think, if anything, it's probably only further lessened any visual effects. So. But yeah, I can go ahead and make a motion unless anybody else wanted to add any other comments or whatever. I'll make a motion on behalf of Allen Mello Revocable Trust at 13 Marmon Drive. The request is for a variance to exceed the maximum number of wall signs where 3 are permitted and 5 is proposed, and this is in the HB zone. The variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property. a key part of this is that as a car dealership, there are certain elements of the franchising guidelines for the signage that require the multiple brands to be displayed, and the facade lends itself to those being separate signs. The total number of signs still, square footage of those signs still does not exceed the allowable square footage for the signage, so the overall impact from a visual perspective or total signage would appear to be minimal. So therefore, it is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. There's been no testimony indicating any effects on property values, negative or otherwise. It would not be contrary to public interest, and substantial justice will be served. And again, with that, I move for approval of this variance request.
So a motion of approval, seconded by Ms. Vitale. Any discussion on the motion? Show of hands in favor of the motion. Unanimous. So one thing I did mention about the 30-day window of appeal, I know you know that, I was just kind of saying it more for the other folks here to kind of drive that home, that there's always that 30-day window of appeal. So good luck with your signage, and with that, I'll close case number 2.
Thank you very much. Thanks to our customers. And we have new premises, and we invite you all down. Come on down.
Sounds like Ernie Bach, huh?
It does.
All right, I'd like to open the public hearing on case number 3. It's John and Lilani Hall, the owners. The address is 41 Sanborn Drive. The request is a variance to exceed maximum fence height. 6 feet is what's permitted. 8 feet is requested for a portion of the fence on the right rear side of the property. Hi, if you'd like to come to the microphone, and again, if you could give us your name and address for the record, and maybe briefly walk us through your application, or take it away.
Okay. John Hall, 41 Sanborn Drive. So basically, we're going to replace our fence this year, the existing one, and we're requesting a section of it that would be greater than 6 feet. The reason being is we had a pool installed last year, and the property slopes down, so with the decking, they had to raise it up like probably over a foot to the right side of the property. So now that when we stand on that part of the decking, our heads are actually over the fence.
All right.
And it would be just a certain section of the fence, probably like 3/4 of it on the right side of our property. The front of the property would remain 6 feet.
All right. I have a couple questions for you. So as you look at the front of your house, you know, I see a fence on the right and a fence kind of parallel to the street. That would remain at 6 feet.
Correct.
And what I think I'm understanding is behind that, or just in the backyard, is where it will angle up to 8 feet as you go to the back property
Yeah,
line.
that is correct.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that question with me. Any questions from board members?
I guess it would be, have you actually had any conversations with, I guess your neighbors at number 39? Is it number 39 that's most affected, or, yeah, number 39, I think, right, yeah.
Not yet, but we can.
Yeah, that's across the street. Okay.
All right, I think we're all set with your testimony.
Okay. Thank you.
You can have a seat, we'll see what comes up. Is there anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone in the audience with questions or concerns? We do have a letter on file. So I think this was before us tonight. Have we all had a chance to read this? Okay. Maybe what the best thing would somebody share a copy with Mr. Hall? I mean, this is it's not, I don't know if it's opposition, it's a bunch of questions, I'd say.
Yeah.
And it's from 40 Sanborn Drive, so I was trying to get a feel for where that is in comparison
Pretty much
to your
across the
property.
street.
It's across the street,
Yeah.
okay. So, yeah, okay. I'll just read the first paragraph into the record. It says, I own 40 Sanborn Drive, abutting the neighbors, asking for a permit to build a fence higher than the city allows. I'm just clarifying, abutting they're referring to across the street. Just wanted to clarify that. So they have several questions here, and I guess, Mr. Hall, maybe, you know, we have somebody asking questions. Maybe you could just tick through these questions? I think you might be able to just walk us through the answers. Like, are you planning on using a licensed contractor?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, we are.
I just want to point out, if you read the letter, I think that this abutter may have a confusion that he thinks it's a neighbor, because if you go on to the fourth or fifth point, they are in the impression that this is a neighbor that's doing something right next to them. And so, I guess my point is that this is valid, but it may not be as valid when we're talking about this applicant in this case,
Yeah.
because he's talking to something that he has no control over across the street. And
Yeah.
again, the butter across the street is under the impression that it's a neighbor of theirs directly next to them. So
Yeah.
they might have, that applicant might have, that abutter might have read something different.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we really want to spend too much time with this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably that people hear a butter and don't necessarily immediately identify that it's, you know, could be across the street versus an immediately, you know, touching property in the case of a rear or side yard. And the other thing is, I mean, some of these questions I don't think would really necessarily be relevant or necessary for an applicant to necessarily respond to anyhow, but I think generally, I think that's the main thing. I was confused when I looked again at the street numbers, or the two numbers. I'm like, that should be across the street, whereas it sounded like they're talking about something I think that's
Yeah.
happening next to them.
Sure, I mean, I think, certainly I agree. A lot of the questions don't apply. I didn't, we could, do you feel we should just, you know, set aside, or maybe address a couple of those, just,
My opinion is that it's part of the record. Again, we have a neighbor that's concerned. I think that, again, if there was something were to happen in the future, there would be a record of it. I don't know what value we would have in spending too much time on it.
yeah.
Everything is important, but I don't know how germane it is to this particular applicant on this side of the street.
Yeah, okay. So it's clear to us now, it's on the other side of the
Yep.
street, and most of these questions, like, are they gonna touch my lawn, obviously does not apply. You're gonna use a licensed contractor. You don't, I guess you don't need to address this unless you, or answer these unless you wanted to. So if you'd like to have a seat, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So, again, just to clarify, there's no opposition in the audience to this. So with that, I'll close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Thoughts, Mr. Boucher?
Having looked at the property in the neighborhood, you know, there's a couple of things that stuck out, right? So I understand very clearly what the applicant, you know, what's going on in their backyard and why they're looking for this. Two things. We don't have any testimony from the direct abutter that there's an issue. So that's one thing, that we're not having any opposition tonight to this. Number two is the property on the rear is the school, right, it's the high school. And I can kind of support this because, you know, we're not looking at it from the front part of the yard going back, because then it creates like this wall. It's really from that back corner of the house, he's looking to go back and just raise up. So I think it's reasonable for privacy. I think it also, you know, in some respects could really be a benefit to number 39 also, for their privacy. So in this case, you know, for those reasons, I would support the application. Obviously, you know, we would make sure that we're strictly specifying that one section that he's looking for, that he's identified. But I support it as it stands.
All right, thank you. Mr. Shaw?
I pretty much concur with everything that Mr. Boucher just said.
I agree. Wouldn't throw in the safety part of it also.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I agree, especially with the privacy issue for the neighbor. I think this is responsible and responsive. I completely concur, and I completely concur with what Mr. Boucher had to say.
Yeah, and I too agree with your sentiment on that. Just again, I don't think you're even going to see the high fence from the street. It's merely a rear yard. I'm certainly sensitive to the abutter because it's very meaningful to them, but we don't have any word one way or the other. And I'm going under the assumption that the privacy works good for both parties there. So I think we're all finding support for this. Would someone like to make a motion, Mr. Boucher?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance for John and Leilani, sorry if I mispronounced that, Hall of 41 Sanborn Drive, Sheet E, Lot 1206. They are requesting a variance to exceed the maximum fence height, 6 feet permitted, 8 feet requested for a portion of the fence on the right rear side of the property. This is in the R9 zone. Code section applicable to this is 190-44. We find that the variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property, given the special conditions of the property. We talked about the location of the property, the fact that it would be difficult to see the impact from the street. The abutting property in the back is a school, and we talked about the fact of what's happened on that property and the topography and why they're seeking that 8-foot high fence. We find that the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. We find that it is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. It would not adversely affect the property values of surrounding parcels. We have no testimony one way or another. It is not contrary to public interest, and substantial justice would be served.
Thank you on the motion. Is there a second to the motion? Mr. Shaw, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, a show of hands in favor. So that's unanimous. So congratulations, your request for an 8-foot fence in the back has been approved. You might, just again, everybody has a 30-day window of appeal. I would exercise caution on that. You never know what might happen, but good luck with your project, and if you have any questions, you can give Mr. Falk a call tomorrow. All right, have a good evening. With that, I close case number 3. We good to keep going? And I'd like to open the public hearing on case number 4. The owner is Sarah Davis Pagan. The address is 22 Cheshire Street. The request is a variance to encroach 16 feet into the 20-foot required front yard setback to maintain an existing 10 by 20 car shelter. This is in the R9 zone, Ward 1. Is there anybody here to present on this application? Hi, come on up if you could give us your name and address on the microphone and walk us through your application. We'd appreciate it.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Sarah Davis Pagan, and I'm the owner of a home at 22 Cheshire Street in Nashua. The reason, 3 years ago, I purchased my dream car, a Mustang, and I also purchased a shelter to protect it from the environment. For 3 years, it's been upright, and somebody had called City Hall on a couple of the properties in the neighborhood, and I do believe that it may be the folks across the street, because they're selling their home, thinking that perhaps it may affect the value of their home. It's been up for 3 years. They've never said anything, and so I wasn't aware I needed a permit for the shelter. So I came to City Hall and applied for that and realized that where the shelter was encroachment on where it should be based on where my property lines are.
So here we are.
So here we are. Do you have photographs?
Yes.
Very good. Very good.
I know I had a chance to come out and take a look,
Did
et
you?
cetera. I'd never been down to the end of Cheshire Street before.
Yes.
Any questions, I mean, before we get into opposition, there is a letter we have here that's, I guess, somewhat in opposition, but let's just talk about, stick to the order here. We'll get to that in a moment. Any questions for Ms. Davis-Hagan?
I guess if you could just at least walk us through the placement and why you can't move it back further.
Can't move it back because we have a shelter there to put our snow blower and things in there. And if I move it over and push it back to where the house is, it still wouldn't be in protocol with what you're requesting.
Is the shed that's behind it on a foundation of some sort also? Is that-
No.
So would it be possible to move that? It's a metal shed, I think, right?
It's a metal shed, yes.
So would it be possible to move that back?
Unfortunately not, because the back part of our land starts gradually going uphill.
Right.
Any other questions for the applicant? I guess while you're here, I mean, I did see the same thing. I mean, I saw the shed behind the shelter, and it looks like there's almost like a stone wall that goes up, starts going up about the front of your house-ish, on that side anyway. So, you know, that's what I saw when I was there.
Yeah, when we originally built the home, there was a flood zone area, and the property across the street was in the flood zone. And they apparently put in for a variance to have that house constructed there. But our house is tilted to avoid that, and we have a wall. So we're not in the flood zone area.
So behind the shed, is there actually like a stone wall, or does it just start to go up? I mean, I didn't.
Behind the shed is a fenced-in area where we had our dogs, and it's a gradual upgrade.
You can kind of
So-
see it in this one picture.
Can you see it?
Yeah. You can kind of see the gap between the shelter and the side of the house. So you kind of can see the big stones that are part of that. Kind of like you said, kind of like a stone wall type of sloping kind of
Oh, yeah, on
thing.
that.
Oh, yes, that's on the side where the flood zone area is. But behind the shed, it's a gradual upgrade. It goes, let's put it this way, we don't really have a backyard. It goes up a little incline, and then that's where the country, I don't know the name of the facility is, but that's where the other houses are constructed up on top of that hill.
Okay. Well, I mean, just following up on Mr. Shaw's question, I mean, I didn't, you know, I think he was probing, and I'm a bit curious still of the possibility, like, the shed, to try to minimize the encroachment in the front, like, if that metal shed, could that work if that were moved back, maybe up that, you know, hill a little bit, so you still had the use of the shed and your snow blower could go down to the driveway and the lawnmower and stuff?
Well, we had to dig into the incline in order to put the shed there, and that's why there's blocks there around the shelter, so the dirt wouldn't fall against the shed.
I see. Okay. Well, I think I'm all set. Any other questions?
It's also a dead-end street.
Yeah.
I've never had any complaints about it, and that's why I was really surprised when Kyle had contacted me.
All right. You can have a seat for now. I
Okay.
think, is there anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Anyone with questions or concerns in the audience? Yes, yeah, we have a letter. I'm wondering if maybe we've all had a chance to read this tonight. I think that would be the easiest way. Mr. Shaw will give Ms. Davis-Pagan a copy of this letter, and if you just want to take a couple moments for you or you and your friend to read that, and then after you've had a chance to look at that, if you could come back, I'd appreciate if you could come back to the mic and just give us your response to that letter. I'm just actually reading this a bit myself. I haven't had a chance to go through it. Actually, I guess, Ms. Pagan, if you want to come back to the mic, you can. If you don't, you don't have to. You could let it rest as is, but if you... Okay. Well, that's fine. It's your right. So again, your name and address, just so we get that.
Sarah
I mean,
Davis?
name. We don't need the address. Sorry.
Sarah Davis
Thank
Pagan.
you.
Again, the shelter's been up for 3 years. They haven't said anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
They're selling their home, and I kind of suspected it was them. They're trying to sell their home for $350,000, $60,000 when viewing the, I don't know what you call it, statement card or whatever, on the value of the property is 302. The rest of the homes on that street are worth less than that, including our home. So just depreciating the value of that home, it just doesn't make sense to me. Why
Okay.
didn't they come forward sooner? You know, I would have certainly have addressed it then. So just the fact that they're selling their home, and now it's an issue, that's why I filed for the variance.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? I think we're all set. You could have a seat. I'll close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Thoughts? Anyone? Ms. Vitale?
Well, I'm looking at the way the home sits on the property, and even if this homeowner would come to us and, you know, this is the type of structure it is, if they were going to be putting on an addition that would even be a single-car garage, it's gonna encroach there, you know, for that, and that would be something in the past we've considered as a plus to a neighborhood to add on a garage and homes that maybe don't have a garage. So when you look at it in terms of a place to park a vehicle, that protects it, you know, it's the temporary structure versus adding on to a home and having a permanent structure. This is tied down. I'd like to see if it could get a little bit further back from the front of the property, so it didn't quite stick out as far, but they do have limitations on the property itself, without taking out that shed and maybe putting it elsewhere on the property. It's, you know, she already explained that the current shed behind this structure is built into that hillside. So that's, it has been there for 3 years.
Okay.
By testimony, there's been no comment about the fact that it's been there for 3 years.
All right, Mr. Boucher?
I also went out and looked at the property, and, you know, there's, anything can be done, but there's definitely some challenges to even push this back, as the applicant stated. What I find it interesting also is, you know, this is in a dead-end street area. I don't find the structure to be any obstruction to anybody in the area. You know, and I think a lot of times, you know, we look at this and applicants don't see it, they see it differently because they don't realize that the property line doesn't actually go out to the street sometimes, right? So this is not something that's really right on the street, even though, you know, technically it's, you know, there's only 4 feet left to that, you know, where the city property begins. But again, I don't see the overwhelming evidence to, or needs to make the applicant move the shelter back or take it down. I think it's reasonable where it is, and that's it.
Thank you. Okay.
Well, thank you. I concur with both of my colleagues. And if you look at the picture, the house is tilted on an angle. Everything is tilted on an angle, as she explained, to help with the flood zone. And as far as real estate is concerned, we can all value our homes at whatever we want to value them at, but they're only worth as much as somebody else wants to pay for them. There's that too. But as far as moving it, I think that would create more of a hardship to try and dig something out to put a shed back a few feet that is still going to be within the encroachment. And so I think after 3 years, I'm in support of this. I can't disagree with what they're trying to do.
Mr. Shaw?
I'm actually kind of struggling with it, and I guess I kind of would like to defend the neighbors a bit, because I think what generally often happens is, I mean, something like this can be talked about as 3 years, nobody said anything. Well, first of all, it is a temporary shelter, so it's not something that is necessarily looked at as, or at least it's not a permanent structure. So there's a question of what its permanence is. And there might not also have been generally an understanding of its placement relative to where it was allowed to be or not. I mean, I do think a structure like this, the aesthetics of it, you know, is something that I think not everybody, you know, would appreciate. But I don't think that because somebody hasn't said anything for 3 years means they necessarily ever actually were condoning it or approving it or didn't have an issue with it. I think oftentimes neighbors don't know how to approach other neighbors about conflicts or concerns, or even know if they've got a real kind of reasonable position to take or make. So I actually, to me, the existence of 3 years doesn't necessarily really mean a lot as far as nothing being said. And I think that even the tone of the letter seemed to be very much like, we really feel bad even bringing something up like this. You know, we kind of lived with it. We didn't, you know, I took it almost like we lived with it and didn't necessarily like it, but we're still kind of concerned. And I know they raised a lot of other issues about other properties on the street, which are really not necessarily germane to this application. So I just, in the end, the other thing is I just still don't feel real comfortable with the amount of encroachment for this kind of structure. I think it is definitely helped by some of the other conditions, you know, with the property, with it being a dead-end street and all, which make it a lot more palatable. But I still think, especially the neighbor across the street is still probably more affected than maybe anybody else. And I do think there's still, while it might take some effort, I think there is possibly still some options for how the shed and the structure could be moved around. I'm not saying it doesn't come without some level of cost, but right now they're doing something that's not allowed by the code, so they're seeking relief. You know, we're trying to figure out if this is reasonable. So I'm not convinced. It seems that it's maybe sufficient sentiment already to approve it, but I guess curious what you also have to say.
Well, I feel like you do, Mr. Shaw, in the sense that, you know, we don't know whether the neighbor across the street called code enforcement, or maybe, but my sense is they were probably uneasy with it. I mean, myself, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and I think it's pretty far out front. And maybe getting a card about this was enough to generate a letter, but I appreciate the tone of the letter in that it's, I think trying to look at the neighborhood optimistically, like trying to keep things up to code. And I, like you, share, I sense that other shed, there probably could be less encroachment in this case. I don't want to try to sell a strong argument here, but I think that there could be an opportunity for less encroachment. And so I'm struggling with the support, but that's where I'm at, and I don't, I don't know if we need to go round and round on this. If anybody wants to let me know, and the microphone is there, or someone can make a motion and we can go forward on it. Any thoughts, any more discussion, or is everyone kind of okay on their opinion and ready to cast a vote? Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance for Sarah Davis Pagan, owner of 22 Cheshire Street, Sheet F, Lot 934, requesting a variance to encroach 16 feet into the 20-foot required front yard setback to maintain an existing 10 by 20 car shelter. Though the approvers of this variance are in agreement that the variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property, given the special conditions of the property. We heard testimony from the applicant that there is a semi-permanent shed behind the current structure. The property behind it rises up in topography. So there are some challenges of relocating the shed or doing that. We also find that the area that this is located in is noted to be located in a dead-end area of Cheshire Street. We find that the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than area variance. And again, for the reasons that the approvers of this variance would be stating for what I just stated before on the reasons why, other than area variance. We state that it is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. It will not adversely affect property values of surrounding parcels. We have no testimony one way or another. We do have a letter in somewhat opposition describing what they foresee or believe the street is, in references to certain things like a campground and other issues with other properties on the street, but not including this property, but many other properties. But again, we have no testimony one way or another on the value of surrounding parcels. We believe it's not contrary to public interest, and substantial justice would be served.
So a motion to approve is presented. Is there a second to the motion? Seconded by Ms. McKay. Any discussion on the motion? I'm glad you could hang in there, Ms. Vitale. This might be a close vote. A show of hands in favor of the approval of the motion. In approval? And those opposed? That's 2 to 3. So that does not carry. Wait. Okay. So, well, you've seen how the decision fallen, so we have not approved your decision here tonight.
Someone make a motion to deny then?
Yeah, we should make a motion
Okay.
to deny.
Yeah.
you're going to want to take a break for a second, right?
Yeah, I think we need to take a 5-minute recess until Ms. Vitale can return. Yeah.
If it's about the case, we can't take any more
Yeah.
testimony.
Public hearing is closed.
Mr. Chairman, maybe you just want to reiterate the rules that we operate by. Again, it's not by each case, it's when we have to stop taking testimony, unfortunately, and that there is other remedies if the outcome is not in their liking, they can
Sure.
contact.
Thank you for saying that. I mean, while we're waiting for Ms. Vitale, our rules by law are very specific, public hearing and then public meeting. So the next step for somebody who's not favorable to our decision would be to request a rehearing, which is essentially a statement of why you think we got it wrong. That's everybody's right to do so. It's certainly your right. And that could be, Mr. Falk there's a procedure and a form for that, and Mr. Falk could walk you through that. So that would be the next step, which, you're probably wondering what you could do for yourself. That would be a next step. Do we want to take a 5-minute recess or just hang here or whatever? Guess we'll just wait here. I don't want to proceed on to the next case till we close out this one.
I think, we still need to.
At least you have time to catch up your writing on this case.
Yeah, I know, I feel bad.
While we're waiting for Ms. Vitale, I was planning on going to the, I think it's April 28th, the zoning training.
Yeah, I want to go to that. I
Spring
saw that.
conference. I'll email you guys the flyer that we got.
I think we did get an email.
Did you get one?
from-
Yeah, we gotta hold the date email or something. I
That's all we
think.
got, yeah.
Okay, I'll email you the flyer. I think we just got it today, and
Is it April 28th or?
sounds about right. 28th or 26th, something like that. I'll email you.
Probably the 29th.
Is that a Saturday?
Is that a
It's a
Saturday?
Yeah, that usually is
The
Saturday.
Planning and zoning conference.
Is it in Concord this time?
I just got it today. I didn't really take a look at it.
Lately it's tended to be in Concord.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's
the-
in Manchester, the Graponis.
Grove Pony, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where it was last time.
You went to that?
I don't have to sit through 101, do I, again?
No? I mean, the other thing we could do is, look at the agenda, because it's a little different each year. And sometimes, there's certain ones of interest to each of us, and so we may as well look at that.
attendance?
Yeah, or just, maybe stuff in the morning or the afternoon. Usually the morning is good, and the
Yeah.
afternoon is a little bit,
Slow.
like like that last case was on, in the afternoon, was about the agri-farming, which really doesn't apply
But
to
you
Malden Nashua.
guys did the ADUs too. The last one. And I had to sit through zoning 101,
What was ADU?
the accessory dwelling units.
Oh, yeah.
You guys at least got something.
Yeah, so so I think it's worth to look at the agenda
Mhm.
and see what we want to do in terms of carpooling, because I'd be happy to carpool if we were on the same agenda.
Yep. Where do I find
We have the
room to
option
write this?
of proceeding with 10 Liberty Street with the four of us, if we want to table that case, table case number 4 until Ms. Vitale gets back, and then proceed with case number 5.
I think we should just try to give her a few more minutes before.
okay.
She is.
All right, we're back. Get our microphone on. All right, so, motion to approve did not pass. Is there a motion to deny the case? This is 22 Cheshire Street.
Would you like to make the motion, or would you prefer somebody else did?
I'll make a motion, I guess. I make a motion on behalf of Sarah Davis Pagan, 22 Cheshire Street. The request is the variance to encroach 16 feet into the 20-foot required front yard setback to maintain an existing 10 by 20 car shelter. I make a motion to deny this variance. I make the motion to deny because I think I and perhaps a majority of others believe that the same shelter is possible, but with less encroachment, that there's other opportunity to reduce the amount of encroachment. I think the board is sensitive that it's a dead-end street, but it is still, you know, the 16 feet into the 20 is I think perhaps a majority of the board feels that's excessive and could be minimized. And so I guess I'll leave it at that to say that is, so that much encroachment is not within the spirit and the spirit and intent of the ordinance. And I think the board is concerned that it does affect property values of surrounding parcels. So with that, I make a motion to deny. Seconded by Mr. Shaw. Any discussion on the motion?
So they'll, if they were to come back with less encroachment, can they come back and do that, or is that, are you completely taking this out completely?
You know, it's something we talk about often. I think something that is less encroachment, the board could very well make a decision as a substantially different application.
Fisher versus Dover.
You know, we do a Fisher v. Dover test of that. I mean, if they came back, you know, it might be very different if they came back for a 15-foot encroachment versus a 10 or a 6-foot encroachment. So I think that's where we would have to weigh on what we felt was maybe
See
the
what they
different.
propose, yeah.
Just curious to see how close.
Yeah, I don't think it precludes them from reconsidering and coming back with a lesser encroachment. I don't
Yeah.
think we're closing that door.
Right, I don't see that door as
Yeah.
being closed at all. I think it's overly aggressive to say any sort of shelter on the property is
Right.
not going to be heard by the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wanted for a public record that, you know, in case they decide to listen to it, you know, the final decision, that they understand what's happening.
Right, if
Yeah,
they're,
and maybe it almost, I think, to clarify and maybe echo part of what Mr. Currier was saying, I do think that perhaps not all reasonable alternatives have been considered that could allow for lesser encroachment.
thank you for clarifying that, bringing up that question. Any other discussion on the motion? Show of hands in favor of the motion.
Who seconded it?
It was Ms.
Okay.
Shaw.
Oh, Rob did?
And so that would be Shaw, Courier, and Vitale, and those opposed be Boucher and Kay. So with that, I'll close the public meeting on case number 4. I'd like to open a public hearing on case number 5. The applicant is Teresa Fredrickson, the owner. The address is 10 Liberty Street. There's 3 variances here. 1, to encroach 5 feet into the 25-foot required front yard setback. Number 2 is to encroach 5 feet 11 inches into the 10-foot required left yard setback. And number 3, to encroach 2 feet 8 inches into the 10-foot required right side yard setback. All requests to remove an existing house and construct a new house. Hi, is there someone to speak about this application? Hi, if you'd like to come to the microphone and give us your name and address, and walk us through your application, we'd appreciate it.
Is this gonna be?
Hi, I'm Teresa Fredrickson at 10 Liberty Street.
Take it Hi, welcome. Would you like to walk us through your application? It's fairly complete. If not, I think if you're uncomfortable doing that, that's fine, and we could, I
just
could
really
lead you
kinda
through
just
the
don't know what
points
to
of
say.
law.
So,
How would you like to approach
I-
that?
on the application, I'm sure you see that we're tearing down our existing house and rebuilding a new. The existing house is already at these encroachment marks. And actually, on the left side, we're coming in a couple of feet. So pretty much we're keeping the same footprint, although the foundation we want to demo as well because it's cracked and leaning, and we have a letter that I attached to the application too. We had someone from the city, Mr. Collins, come out from the city and take a look at the foundation, and it's not really sure if it would really hold a second level because we are going to go up to a second floor. But the house is being kept within the Cape, which is several of the houses on the street and in the neighborhood.
So just for clarification, you've had this, how long have you owned the house?
Ooh, 15,
And,
16 years, 17 years,
and
said.
are you planning on lifting the house and redoing the foundation and setting it down, or you just got
Nope.
complete redo?
Gone.
Complete redo?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the foundation, yeah.
And just to clarify, I think that I have this right, but just so you have this house that has these pre-existing encroachments, and you're gonna essentially replace the house in the same situation, but with a little bit less encroachment on one side.
Right.
But because it's a new house, you're kinda like by
Right.
law
You need
here
to go
before
back
us
to the
tonight.
existing.
Oh, you wanna join in?
Basically, what happens, their house is, it's non-conforming, it was built prior to zoning laws, and the code does allow, if you're keeping the exact same foundation there, you can rebuild a house as long, even if it's encroaching, if it's unsafe, or there's something that happened, like an act of God, or something where the house has to be torn down. But in their case, they're taking out the entire foundation. So it really has to start from scratch all over again. There's really, the grandfatheredness goes away when the entire existing foundation goes away. So they're starting with basically a new lot, so to speak. So, and that's why they have to meet the overall setbacks. But they are making it a little bit less than what is existing right now. So, and I know Mark did go out there from our staff, we talked about it quite a bit, and I've talked to the owner about it as well, so we're aware of, that's the situation.
So thank you for clarifying that. So, are there any other questions for the applicant? I think we're all set. That was easy, I hope. You're with her. I see no one else in the audience. There is no, we don't have anything on record, so I'd like to close the public hearing and open the public meeting.
Can I ask a question of
Yes.
Carter? Carter, in Mark's letter, he states that the concrete in the foundation is sandy and dry, not a normal, and he would speculate it was mixed on-site. He talks about the costly repairs and the fact that this needs to be addressed.
Well, the future of the house needs to be addressed, because you could
Yeah.
put your fingers on it and crumble the foundation. And in a, bad windstorm or another kind of a storm or weather event, the house really could be looked upon as possibly being unsafe. So by Mark saying that, he means like, put in a new foundation. And that's why the owners are really going with a whole new house. It'll be safer and meet the ordinance as far as building construction. That construction doesn't meet it right now.
I understand that, but does that not, you said that it had to be considered as brand new from the beginning because it was a brand-new house, but the foundation wasn't going to stay, so the grandfathering didn't stay, but the foundation can't stay, or you can't put a new house on it. So Are there extenuating circumstances
Well,
somehow?
they're kind of stuck because
Exactly.
they can't lift up the whole house,
No, they
remove
need
the
to
entire
remove it.
foundation,
Right.
put in a new foundation, put the house back on it. That's just an unreasonable
That's-
situation. The house is, I think the house is a lot older and needs a lot of repairs anyway. Things are sagging. The house is not, you know, I don't know how long it could stay in its present condition, so I think that's why they're going with a whole brand-new safe house.
That's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying
Can't
to get at,
That's what they've got.
I understand they can't fix it, but is it more stringent upon them and upon us if we look at it as new? Or are we allowed to consider these extenuating circumstances knowing that they can't keep this and they need to redo?
Oh, yeah. That's
Thank you.
That's
That
part of what.
was where I was
That's
trying
part
to
of what,
go.
you know, the building safety department, you know, they're concerned with building safety and the safety of the occupants. And, you know, they don't want to see a foundation staying there in perpetuity that can be eroded and further degrade and have somebody get hurt in the house. So that's why, you know, we're in support of them, you know, taking everything down, starting with a brand-new piece of land there and building a safe, new home that meets the building code and it's going to be safe for the owners.
I just didn't want to restrict them even more. So what you're saying is that we can take this into
Oh,
consideration.
absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
That's why we put it in the package for you guys, so you'd know that our building safety department has gone out there and met with them and talked to them quite a bit, and, you know, we're supportive of their efforts to do this.
Mr. Shaw?
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds like it's kind of a catch-22 with the
Yes.
code.
Yes.
And short of us then, somebody appealing an administrative decision, the city's decided that they can't just apply the grandfathering, so they basically, their decision and recommendation was apply for this variance. So I think we are certainly welcome to, you know, consider all that, and to me, that's a huge factor in all of this. So I think that's, you know, but this is kind of another kind of classic example of why this board needs to exist, to take care of these kind of special circumstances that the code just can't see every single possible instance of, right? So I'm very much in favor of it, and I think it's, you know, it's one of those things where they're gonna be doing the right thing with the property. I mean, as far as, you know, they have actually reduced the total encroachment, so that's kind of a you know, positive. And then, you know, there's already a lot of kind of tight placement of the homes in this, on the street in this area, so I think they're not doing something that's completely out of character with the rest of what's going on either. And it's existed in a similar footprint for decades already, so I think it's more, to me, kind of like, yeah, we have to go through this exercise, but I see no reason not to support it.
I concur. I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It's just that I didn't, you know, I didn't want them.
The city was
Yeah.
kind of stuck. I don't think they felt they could.
I mean, we
you know.
could have maybe said that because there's one side of the house that's being encroached upon that's even less, that we could go, you know, just let it go by, but, you know, we thought, you know, overall, the best thing for them to do is to come here and check with the board, apply for the variances, so.
Ms. Vitale?
I definitely think, and they're encroaching a couple feet less on the one side while they're doing it. It's within the spirit and intent of the ordinance as we read it, and this is the reason that we're here, as Mr. Shaw mentioned. For situations like this, they're actually going to be doing the neighborhood a favor of fixing a foundation or replacing a foundation that if left the way it is, they probably couldn't fix it appropriately, and therefore the house is going to have greater value in the end.
Mr. Boucher, any thoughts?
I'm support.
For all the reasons I'm support too, I think it's all good. It's good for the neighborhood, it's good for the house. It's equivalent to other houses there, like you said, it's kind of a tight neighborhood, it's completely in kind with the others, so I think it's all good. Anybody like to make a motion? Go for it.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion on behalf of Teresa Frederickson, the owner of 10 Liberty Street. There's 3 variance requests. One, to encroach 5 feet into the 25-foot required front yard setback. 2, to encroach 5 feet 11 inches into the 10-foot required left side yard setback. And third, to encroach 2 feet 8 inches into the 10-foot required right side yard setback. All these requests are to remove an existing house and construct a new house. These variance requests are needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property, given the special conditions of the property. One of those absolutely critical is that the foundation of this property is not in good shape and in disrepair and creating potentially unsafe condition. And so any reconstruction of the home really requires removing the foundation and starting over. And as discussed previously, that then precludes this from being treated as just a simple grandfathering of a property that's already been in existing non-compliance. It is especially noteworthy, though, that the encroachment will be reduced by 2 feet from the existing encroachment on the right side yard setback. So it will actually be slightly more conforming than the previous structure. It's also noteworthy that many of the other homes on this street and this general neighborhood do have fairly close placement and probably do encroach into some of the setbacks if they were to be judged by the current law. So it would definitely be within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. There's no indication of any adverse effect on property values of surrounding parcels, and in all likelihood with the reconstruction, it should only help lift other property values in the neighborhood. It's certainly not contrary to public interest, and substantial justice will be served. And again, I move to approve these 3 area variances.
And Ms. McKay, second to the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Thank you for that motion, it was very thorough. A show of hands in favor. So that's unanimous, so you've been approved, and good luck on your construction. Remember, there is that 30-day window of appeal. So have a good evening. Ready for building permits. So I'll close the case, close the public hearing, public meeting on case number 5. Are we ready to proceed, or does anybody want to take a break? I think we'll keep moving on to the rehearing request.
So we can get out of here, it's freezing.
So I would like to open the rehearing request. The owner is MVSS Realty LLC. The requester of the rehearing is Richard Poyant. The address is 3 Bud Way in the Airport Industrial Zone. And the rehearing request is for our January 24th, 2017 public hearing on the application by Mr. Douglas Pauley with his request for a use variance to allow vehicle repair, sales, and sale of vehicle parts. So I think we've all had in our packet Mr. Poyant's, if I'm saying that correctly, rehearing request. Has everyone received that and had a chance to read that? Maybe what I'll do is tick through the 4 criteria and see how we are. Good with that procedure? So, point 1, was there any procedural error? This includes improper notice, denying someone the right to be heard, etc. I was hoping to maybe just take a tally around the table. So could we have Ms. Vitale maybe going clockwise? Do you feel there was any procedural error?
I don't believe so.
Okay, because maybe just an answer, or if there's discussion, that's fine too. Mr. Shaw?
No.
Ms. McKay? And I don't feel that way either. I feel everybody had the chance to speak. Number 2, was it an illegal decision? In other words, did the board fail to completely address each of the points of law required for the use variance. Maybe we'll go the other way. In my opinion, I don't think it was an illegal decision. I think we did address everything. I think there was some split opinion on the noise, but I don't think that it was our opinions. They fell as the way they did. So to my answer in short to number 2 is no. Ms. McKay?
No.
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 Okay, moving on to number 3. Does the request for rehearing contain any new information not presented or available to the board at the original public hearing? Ms. Vitale?
I don't believe I saw any new information that wasn't presented.
Thank you.
I think the only thing maybe that was really new were a few more of the specifics about the tenancy and his concern, Mr. Plant's concern regarding his tenants and some of the other experience. But I think really other than that, which I don't think is actually germane or specific key testimony in any fashion or information. So bottom line, I say no, but I just
Thank
wanted
you
to clarify
for
that.
the clarification. Mr. Boucher?
No.
Ms. McKay?
No.
I guess I'd like to reiterate what you said. In the rehearing request, Mr. Poynt talked about, like, say, the noise or the noise factor. That was actually a point that was brought up in the original letter by him the first time. I think it was emphasized a little more, as you say, Mr. Shaw, with the abutters. And so we talked about that, I think, rather extensively, the noise situation. And, you know, one of the mitigating factors was that I think that swayed this board, the majority of this board, to approve this, was that there was going to be additional walls and such put up. So in summary, I think we're hearing kind of I'm feeling it's the same thing again, that the noise is going to be inadequate. However, I think this board in majority voted in favor because of the applicant's testimony that he's going to soundproof and wall off the top to prevent any noise or odors from going through.
And I think Mr. Pauly's letter, you know, kind of in response, kind of further, I think, kind of emphasized that this had been addressed, and I think it was, you know, the issues that were brought up were not new and were previously already part of our discussion with him during the original application.
Yeah. All right, moving on to question 4. Is there anything that could cause the board to make a different decision? I guess I'll go counterclockwise, and I'll lead off, and I say, I don't find that there is anything, even though I was not favorable to this. I don't think there's anything new here worthy for me, so my short answer is no. Ms.
No.
McKay?
That's my short answer.
No.
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 All right, well, having go through that, I guess I'll say in summary, I'll make a motion that we've considered the 4 items, and the board feels that it does not find any reason to rehear the request, so I make a motion to deny the rehearing request based on our discussion, seconded by Mr. Shaw. Any discussion on the motion to deny the rehearing request? Show of hands in favor of the denial of the rehearing request, so that's unanimous. That will close the rehearing request. We had some minutes from January.
You did send out the correction.
I did, just a correction that that you had suggested from the
Yeah.
last from the meeting in January. I think I just sent that to you,
Oh, okay.
just to see if you were
And-
okay.
and I actually forgot to open up the message. I mean, I saw it, and I think it came in the middle of other things, and it completely slipped my mind, so I haven't actually looked at it, so other than I could probably pull it up on my phone quickly, but.
Oh, we could consider it the next meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I think the minutes came through on an email, not in the package.
Right. Well, that was just the correction that I had highlighted. I think that wasn't it. The point was that you had made the
29th
correction.
page.
But I didn't pay attention even to if you had sent it only to me or to the rest of the board, so
I think I said if you were okay with it, if you were okay with it, then I would send it out to everybody or bring them tonight, so.
Sorry about that.
We can just bring them to the next meeting, and that's fine.
Sure.
I mean, they're all done and typed up, so if anyone needs them, they're available. So. But I don't think there wasn't any other minutes, though, I think that was.
Yeah, just that was
Just
the
that
long
correction.
one.
Right. That was,
Manchester Street.
So.
So there'll be no minutes.
So
No.
there's no minutes. So we have an agenda before us for the next meeting, which is,
March 14th. Two cases.
two cases. We have 18 Legacy Drive and 62 to 64 Lake Street. Does anyone see any regional impact for the next agenda for March 14th?
Nope.
No, that's 5 no's, so there's no regional impact. Is there any other business before the board tonight? We have the bylaws.
bylaws.
Yeah, we still have to make that one correction. I'll
Okay.
bring them at the next meeting.
All right. With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Well, I'll second.
All in favor?
8:02.
We're off.
We're done.